Hi everyone, welcome to the Civic Labs Circular Agriculture Challenge information session. Thank you very much for all of you joining today. I know there'll be a few people still coming on in. Thanks very much for tuning in and looking forward to getting started. I would like to kick off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I gather, which is the Wurundjeri Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, This is and always will be Aboriginal land, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that welcome to anyone who is tuning in today. Again, thank you so much for being here. The aim of today's session is to talk a little bit more about our Circular Agriculture Challenge. It's currently just been launched. If you were lucky enough to be at the launch event last week, hopefully you got to hear a little bit more about it there or read a bit more about it on our website since. Today what will be happening is we'll be going through in a bit more detail what's happening with the challenge and trying to answer any questions that anyone has as well. So look forward to getting started. As I've said, if I didn't actually formally introduce myself, my name is Mark. I'm the head of Civic Labs here at LaunchVic. So the way that we'll be running today's session is that I'll be kicking off with a bit of an overview, talking through a little bit more about the challenge. I'll then be luckily joined by the wonderful Anne and Anthea from Agriculture Victoria. They're going to give us a bit more background around the challenge statement and a bit more insight into Agriculture Victoria's involvement in the program. We'll then be jumping back over to me. I'll give a bit more insight into the application process and generally the logistics leading up to the program. And then finally, we'll have time for some Q&A as well. So that's how we'll be running through it. Some first housekeeping pieces. Please do feel free to enter any questions that you have into the comments section. I'm loving seeing all the people putting where they're coming in from. We've got a few people from Melbourne. We've got someone from East Gippsland, some regional folks, Southwest Victoria. So really great to have a bunch of people from all over the state joining us. If you do have any questions throughout, you're more than welcome to pop those into that same chat section there. But we may address those as we go through, and I may be able to see those as we go. But otherwise, we will answer those questions in the Q&A as well. And in addition to me on the call from LaunchVic, we've got a couple of us in the chat as well, so they're ready to assist. They'll be able to share links and everything like that might be helpful as we go. And just to clarify, this session will be recorded and published on our website. It'll also be sent to everyone who joins today. So if you miss anything or you need to jump off for a second, grab a glass of water, whatever you need to do, feel free because the whole thing will be recorded and ready and available for you at a later time. Excellent. Without further ado, we might get started in terms of the overview of the whole challenge. So I'm going to take a step back and talk about what is Civic Labs. So Civic Labs, for those who don't know, it's a 6-week program that helps connect startups and the public sector to help solve real-world challenges identified by government. So why we run this program is that it enables new and emerging startups with these really potential exciting solutions to connect with the government and be able to leverage the expertise, insights, and knowledge of our government partners, whilst also facilitating this co-design process where the public and private sectors are able to come in. That includes industry from whatever the challenge is focused on, as well as our government partners to come in and help support the startups identify product market fit. We recognize that it's a really difficult journey in those early stages of starting a startup, and any way that we can shortcut the learnings in these kind of priority areas or opportune areas, we want to facilitate that. So that's what the kind of opportunity is for Civic Labs. Some more details in terms of what's involved. Each startup is actually provided with $15,000 of equity-free funding for participating in the program. So we select 10 startups, and we're really lucky to be able to provide some funding to each of the teams to be able to take those first steps and take the chance of building out what could hopefully be a really successful startup. We also are fortunate enough to be able to provide some further funding. So 2 of the startups from the cohort of 10 at the end of the program will be selected for a further $35,000 in equity-free seed funding, which means that by the end of the program, 2 startups will have up to $50,000 worth of equity-free funding, which we see as a really exciting way to catalyze that early stage startup development and hopefully, build upon the initial foundations and see some great startups come to life. And so for this Civic Labs challenge, if you're not already aware, the title may have given it away with the circular agriculture, but how can technology create circular economy opportunities in agriculture? That is the question that we're posing to our founder community in this program. And we're really excited to be working alongside Agriculture Victoria to deliver this program. We've just finished, actually, if you're not aware, working with them on a previous challenge, which was all around farm safety. But today we're talking about our brand new challenge around circular economy opportunities in agriculture. And I'm very lucky, as I said, to be joined by Anne and Anthea for today's session, and they're going to be able to tell you a bit more about the background to this challenge. So I'm going to invite Anne and Anthea to join the stage now. Hi, Anne. Hi, Anthea. How are you?
Hi, Mark. How you going?
Yeah.
Hello, Mark.
How are you doing, Anthea?
Good, thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Alrighty, so I'm going to hand over to you, but I'm in control of the slides. I'll try guess where I can when I need to change slide, but don't hesitate to tell me if you need to chuff me along to move to the next slide, okay? But Anne and Anthea, over to you to talk more about the challenge.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mark. I'd just like to say I'm paying my respects to the Wiradjuri Woiwurrung people and whose land I'm coming to you from today. My name's Anne Dansey, and I'm a Senior Policy Analyst at Agriculture Victoria, Department of Energy, Environment and Climate Action. So a little bit about Agriculture Victoria. We work in partnership with farmers, industry and communities and other government agencies to grow and secure agriculture for Victoria. We're committed to innovating in the ag tech space, supporting sustainable, resilient, productive agriculture sector through harnessing opportunities available in circular agriculture approaches. This will address risks and promote farm businesses to grow opportunities. We also like to focus on interventions that have a sustained benefits for our farmers by prioritising evidence-based delivery through our existing services and networks. Next slide. Yeah, thanks. Why are we interested? So in 2020, Victoria wasted 2.4 million tonnes of food annually, and we have a goal to halve this amount by 2030. Food waste in Victoria costs $6 billion annually and contributes 3 million tonnes of carbon dioxide emissions and wastes 29 billion litres of water. So there's a really big challenge and opportunity to create businesses in this space. So we'd like to rethink farming systems to maximise efficiency and to minimise waste and to unlock new revenue streams. That's why we're all here today. And also by closing resource loops and reducing environmental impact, we can create circular agriculture and economic opportunities that drive long-term resilience and profitability. So we want to eliminate waste and pollution and measure how we're going. The measurement is a really big focus for us so that we know that we're improving. Circulate products and materials to their highest value, and also around all of that, hopefully regenerating nature and by looking at production change and new economic models.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. My name is Anthea Derrington. I'm a policy manager from Agriculture Victoria, and I'll just provide a little bit of information about what we're looking for. So, in essence, we're looking for some economic benefits, sustainability and adaptability. So they're the things that we do on a day-to-day basis with our farmers and our agricultural sector. The dot points here on the slide, they're taken from the guidelines, which are great, and I know Mark will talk more about them. But in essence, what we're looking for is innovation that looks at how things can be designed well at the start. So Anne mentioned farming systems, so what can be designed at the start. Things that can be transformed on a farm or be transformed for valuating off a farm, how we can reuse water, energy, everything that happens on farms, save emissions as well. We want to be able to reduce the synthetic fertilisers, look at different ways of renewing things on farm. As Anne said, data is really important. Monitoring is essential for us. Looking at supply chains, looking at place-based initiatives is something that we're interested in, and basically we're interested in pretty much anything else as well. Thanks, Mark.
That's a great way to frame it, Anthea. Yeah, we always like to have a bit of a catch-all in terms of any other opportunities, because we know that the innovators and the startup founders out there will often have solutions that we didn't even conceive in the designing of this program. So yeah, it's always good to have a bit of a catch-all and hear what the founders might have to say. Did you want to touch on any of these cross-cutting objectives as well around the program?
Well, innovation, I think that's why everyone's here.
Yeah.
So, and again, some of the place-based things, collaboration, and looking for some reuse and resource efficiency. But we can probably go to the next slide, Mark.
Yeah, wonderful.
Which is just about what we'll do. So in Agriculture Victoria, as Anne said, we work a lot with our farmers, with other industry partners, with communities as well. So we have a lot of contacts. We can connect people up. We also have the ability to use some of our networks to do some promotion as well, and our colleagues do an excellent job through many communities of practice in that regard. And pretty much everything we do is about relationships. So we're very keen, once we form a relationship, to be able to maintain that for the benefit of agriculture in Victoria. Thanks, Mark.
No worries. Thank you so much, Anne and Anthea. I might excuse you for the time being. You can take a few minutes off stage. I'll run through the next pieces and we'll bring you back on stage when we're ready for our Q&A. Excellent. So now that we've had a bit more insight into why we're doing this program, some of the specific industry kind of factors around this Civic Labs challenge particularly, this is the time I would really welcome everyone to start putting some Q&A into the chat if you have any questions that have come up in that time, so that we can have those ready for the Q&A period at the end. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk through some more of the specific program details. So let's just start off a little bit about what to expect in this program. So we've talked a lot about the industry side in terms of, those connections into industry, the opportunities for us to promote and leverage those relationships. All those carry across for LaunchVic also, I should say, in terms of our connection into the startup ecosystem and being able to promote you also. But in terms of the actual day-to-day content, what we're trying to do with this challenge is help people who have ideas or the beginnings of a startup and take them from where they're at to a better point in the end of the program. So whether that's launching a product, whether that's getting ready for a launch, whether that's just having a pitch by the end of the program that can really formulate what that idea is, our aim is to take you from that idea to early stage, ready to kind of ramp up and go forwards in the future. So to do that, we cover a few topics in terms of how to best start and design your startup idea. And so some of these are such as problem statement formulation, value proposition, developing customer insights, prototyping, and pitching practice. Again, for anyone who was there at the showcase event last week, you would have seen the excellent work that our startups did from the Farm Safety Challenge in pitching those solutions. And there will be a very similar opportunity for all the 10 startups selected for this program. And then that final dot point, as Anne and Anthea alluded to in their presentation with connections into industry, a big part of what we try to do with this program is facilitate those connections and match you with mentors or subject matter experts who can really help shortcut your learning and answer the questions that maybe as a startup founder who doesn't know exactly where to turn or doesn't know who to chat to in terms of these particular problem or challenge areas, we can hopefully create those relationships or leverage the relationships that we have to put you in touch with the right people throughout the program. So in terms of the actual selection process for the startup, it kind of boils down to 5 steps. And I'll talk about these in a bit more detail as we go. But as a top line, submitting an expression of interest, that's the first thing we need everyone to do who's interested. So please be sure to do that ASAP. Submitting an application, there's a written and a video component to the application process. Again, I'll talk about this a bit more in a second. We then have a shortlisting for interview stage where we interview a number of the teams that or founders that we want to select for the program, remembering that we're picking 10 for the final cohort, so we'll interview at least 10. that obviously once you get shortlisted, you'll be selected to conduct for that 15-minute interview. That is over Zoom, so that it's nice and short and sharp and accessible for everyone, as I kind of found out from our information session question earlier, we've got a lot of regional folk and we want to make it as easy and accessible for everyone to join those interviews. So those will be 15 minutes over Zoom. And then pending the outcome of those, we'll select 10 startups for the program. So just to double click on a couple of those points, the expression of interest period is currently open and will be closing at 1 p.m. on the 16th of April. Submitting an EOI is compulsory as part of the application process. So you will only actually be sent an application form or that opportunity to apply for the program if you submit an expression of interest first, okay? So if you're umming and ahhing and not 100% sure, my firm recommendation is to submit an EOI. You can always opt to not apply if you feel it's not quite right for you at that later stage. But if you even want to have the opportunity to apply, submitting that expression of interest is required. And so for that reason, we make it really purposefully designed to be quick and easy. As you can kind of see from the screenshot attached here on the slide, it's pretty simple details in terms of name, email, mobile number. And so that's obviously so we can contact you and let you know about the next stage. And then optional field of your LinkedIn profile just helps with us building out who is actually applying for the program. There's a little question around why you're interested in this challenge area. That's not assessed necessarily from a point of selection. That's just to give us an indication of what you're potentially interested in building. And then a quick question around being Victorian-based. Obviously, as we're LaunchVic, Civic Labs is a LaunchVic program, and we are funded by the Victorian State Government. We can only be supporting startups that are Victorian-based. So there's just a little question about that as well. But yeah, this EOI process is designed to be quick and easy, so that once you get it, once you hear about it, you can do it, know that it's sent off, and then be ready for that next stage of the application process. And so, as I've said, anyone who submits an EOI will be invited to submit the application process formally. And so just talking a bit about what's actually involved in that application process. There is a written response section. So I think there's about 10 questions maybe in that application process, which are all pretty simple, either text field or some multiple choice selection, but pretty standard application form stuff, but happy to answer any questions specifically. We then also have a video interview section, which is just 2 questions, 2 very short questions where you'll be prompted with a question, and then you have to record yourself through the platform, which is called HireFlex. And you record your response, and then that's submitted. So it's not that video interview section is different to the actual video interview that is coming to follow. That is literally just recording a quick response to a couple of questions. You don't necessarily have to book in a time or anything like that. You can do it asynchronously. So in terms of what this application process is testing for, there's two aspects. The eligibility of the program, as I've already nominated, Victorian-based is a pretty standard eligibility requirement for this program. But then we've also got a few others around meeting the definition of a startup, being idea or early stage, the ability to participate in the program, and adhering to the Victorian government policy on ESG prohibited activities. I'd recommend reading the program guidelines, which are available on our website, for a bit more detail on all of these. The only one that I'll touch on in a bit more detail here is the idea or early stage. As I kind of talked to or alluded to in the program design section, this program is really designed for that idea to early stage, taking you from where you're at to hopefully launching and succeeding from here. So we want to make sure that you're not too far progressed in the program or in your progress, because we want to make sure the program is best suited for you as well. So that's probably something to consider, but please don't let that be too much of a determinant in terms of your application process. We're happy to explore those options, but just know that that's what the program's designed to do. So there's more information on all of that on the program guidelines. In terms of the selection criteria, again, I would recommend reading the program guidelines for more specific detail, but these are the 4 areas that we'll be assessing for across the written and the video application: action and alignment, impact, the applicant's capability and capacity, and the LaunchVic's assessment of support. That assessment of support largely does come into effect of that idea to early stage, or depending on your actual subject or focus of your startup idea, making sure that it's really aligned to the challenge, because we want to make sure that startups coming into this program can really actually benefit, and we want to make sure that we're generating as much benefit as possible. So again, I recommend reading the guidelines for more detail, but that's kind of what we're looking for in this assessment process. So should you be shortlisted after that and you've done a successful application up to here, you'll be selected for the video interview proper. As I say, 15 minutes maximum for this one, and just an opportunity for us to better understand you and your startup idea, and that's over Zoom. So we'll book in a time, and again, I recommend checking out the guidelines for all the details. And then all goes well, you're selected for the program. The kind of key requirements are that you have to sign a contract to agree to participate. This is largely in part because of that $15,000 funding provided as part of the program. We want to make sure everyone's on the same page and understanding of their responsibilities. And then in terms of when this all kicks off, I'll talk about timeline more in a sec, but the orientation and program kickoff activities kick off in around June this year. And then finally, at the program conclusion, I'll just talk a little bit more about what happens there. So there's two types of pitching that we do at the end of the program. So this is for two kind of reasons. So the first one is the judged pitch, which is a closed door environment pitch in a boardroom with a judging panel. And that's the opportunity we use to select the two startups who receive the additional funding. So we work towards this in the program and help prepare you, but that's the one pitching opportunity. The second pitching opportunity is our showcase pitch, where we're celebrating the whole cohort's efforts and getting everyone up on stage and pitching to a live audience. And that really is that opportunity to, showcase the great work, celebrate what you've done. A lot of our cohort brought their friends and family to the last event, and it's always a great environment in the room. So that's what that one's all about. And then finally, just some timeline pieces. Again, this is all in the guidelines, so you can check out for more details. I'll just quickly highlight a few of the key dates. So as I said, the expression of interest period closes at 1 p.m. on 16th of April, so just before Good Friday, public holiday. So recommend getting your EOI in before then. We'll then have a application period over the next couple of weeks, and those applications will close at 1 p.m. on the 30th of April. There'll then be those obviously follow-up pieces around selecting for the program. But then the other two key dates I'd recommend checking out: the 11th of June, which is our official program commencement date, and the 16th of July is when the program finishes, with the pitching taking place in a couple of weeks after that. Excellent. I've done a lot of talking there, and I'm sure everyone's keen to now have their opportunity to ask some questions. So I'm going to ask that Anthea and Anne come back on stage now. And I would love to start going into some questions. So I'm just going to start off with Scott's question here first, because it's the first one I've seen. Are you after a project or a startup product? And that's a great question, Scott. If you look at the guidelines in terms of the stage of startup we're looking at, it can kind of fit between there. It could be that you're working on a project at the moment that hasn't formalized into an actual startup yet, or it could potentially. But I guess that word potential is kind of what we're really looking for. If there's no potential for that project to become a technology startup in the future, it's probably going to struggle to become eligible. But if there's an opportunity for it to become a product and become a technical innovation, then that's definitely something we're looking for. But Anne and Anthea, I don't know if you have any further to add around projects versus products, or anything that you've seen in your work with any of the circular ag teams.
We've been collecting things that people have been doing, and as you say, Mark, they pretty much cover that spectrum. So and anything, any innovation is something that we're interested in.
Yeah, I think with some of the examples that we've seen really large sort of regional clusters, and there can be, multiple businesses working together. But out of those relationships and partnerships, there can sometimes be the germination of an idea for a particular product that fits a particular industry. So, we're definitely open to both of those.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Anne. Awesome. Okay, I'm just going to our Q&A. I've got another question here from Luca. If a proposed project generates ACCUs as a byproduct of circular waste recovery, Is that okay? Now, this is testing my technical knowledge of the subject matter. Anne and Anthea, do you need any clarification around that acronym of ACCU? Or Anthea, you look like you know where we're going with this one.
Australian Carbon Credit Units, and
Great.
yeah, we know that they're a federal program for creating carbon credits. We don't see it. First thoughts, we're not thinking that there's a conflict there, and it's just obviously when you are involved in that program, then those carbon credits get dedicated to that as carbon credits, rather than actually claiming some sort of carbon neutrality on the site that you're on. So if you sell them as carbon credits, then people would know as being part of that program that then you're not able to claim a particular site or anything as net zero. So we would just be careful about how, just so we don't have any sort of double counting or anything like that of carbon credits.
Yeah, great. Anthea, anything to add there?
Only that if you put it in, that would be great. We're happy to always look at anything that comes in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'll continue bringing home this point. Fill out that EOI as a first point of call, and then when you see the application process further, you can continue to make a judgment from there. But typically, yeah, the best bet, kind of talking to that idea of people coming in with ideas and them evolving. I would say if you're in the right ballpark, send it through an application. That would be great. And we've seen people adjust their ideas quite a lot in the program. So it's definitely not strange territory for us to have someone coming into the program with one idea, and then throughout the process of talking with the department or industry or working with us to develop that as a business concept, that people might change those ideas as they go. So that's definitely okay as well. So we'd welcome an application, I guess, is the kind of key thing there. Excellent. We've got a question from Cullum here around how a team would enroll. So yeah, the idea around whether you have more than one founder, yes, totally fine to have more than one founder as part of the program. We welcome the opportunity to have more than one founder in a team. Typically, we would recommend no more than 3 founders in a single team, only just from it's difficult to kind of catalyze those learnings that at that early stage if you've got more than 3 founders, we would argue, but we're open to discuss that as well. In terms of the application process specifically, yes, just have one team representative for the time being, at least submit that expression of interest. And when you get to the application process, the written application, you'd probably obviously want to combine your efforts and make sure you're putting the best foot forward. The great thing about that written application process is you can log in and log out and save your progress as you go. So it's not like you have to do it all at one time. But yes, combine those efforts in terms of that written application. And then for the video application, I would recommend being together to answer those questions so that you can bounce off each other and respond accordingly. Because I should note you only get one opportunity to submit that video application. So best to get yourselves together and prepared for that time. It only probably takes about 15 minutes or so max to do that whole submission process for the video section. So yeah, try to be together for that one. And yeah, definitely happy for teams to be involved in the program. Great. Our next question is from Susan around collaborations. We definitely welcome collaborative nature throughout the program, and you'll hear me talk a lot about collaboration in the program. I'm not 100% sure if you're talking about collaboration amongst the cohort or with the mentors coming in, but I would love to, if you can add any extra detail, Susan, in a follow-up question, that would be great, and I'm happy to answer that. But generally, collaboration is a great thing. The only thing that I'll probably say a tiny bit is that we're selecting 10 startups for this program, and the aim is to have 10 startups at the end. We really welcome the opportunity for startups to work together, but we don't necessarily encourage the combining of 2 teams within a program to become a single startup. Obviously, post-program, if you find that you find someone who could complement your business offering and you want to combine afterwards, that's totally great. But for the confines of the program, as I say, we like to have 10 startups come in and 10 startups come out. So that's maybe the only limitation around collaboration. But yeah, if you can add any extra context to that, that would be great. Cool. All right. Our next question from Beatrice. Anne and Anthea, these are quite programmatic questions, so I'm going to be doing a bit more talking here, so you can relax. But I'm sure that other people have questions ready around the agriculture side, or you've done such a good job of letting everyone know that they don't have those questions. So, Beatrice, your question around contact hours during the June-July period, are they face-to-face or can they be conducted via Zoom? Thinking of regional applicants. Yeah, great question. This program is specifically designed as an in-person program. So the program will run in Melbourne CBD for those contact days, which there's 7 full contact days during the program, which are roughly 9 to 5 days, give or take. We typically try to start a little bit late and finish a little bit earlier so that everyone's not completely zonked from a day of programming. But yes, we do require that in-person participation for those contact days. So the exact dates again are in the program guidelines. So I would recommend taking a look at those and seeing your ability to commit to those. But yes, there is a requirement for in-person participation. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, but happy to answer any specialist requests. We did, and we totally understand that there are regional kind of participants joining this program, particularly the last program we ran with Agriculture Victoria. We had people from Bairnsdale and further afield. So yes, we will try to make accommodations where possible, but we believe the learning process is best suited to in-person participation for this program. We've got a question. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Mark, I'll just add to that. With any expertise in the agriculture field, if people like above the learning from the program, we do have experts who are able to speak to people online and mobile and all that sort of stuff. So, we are showing some flexibility given that we're in agriculture.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there will be aspects of the program where there's virtual participation, but the general consensus of what we try to do is all in person. But yeah, that's a great point, Anne. Thank you. We've got a question here around when will the application be opened after the expression of interest period? Great question. So that will come in pretty well immediately. So as I said, 1 p.m. Wednesday the 16th is when the expression of interest period closes. By Thursday the 17th, not sure exactly the time, but sometime on Thursday the 17th, you would receive that application form. It could even be sooner. It could be right after the EOI period closes. It's just from our end, the processing of EOIs and making sure that all gets sent out correctly. So yeah, it's pretty much immediate to give everyone the maximum amount of time. And part of the reason why we do this expression of interest period, then an application period, is to ensure that everyone gets the same amount of time to submit that application to make it as fair as possible. So yeah. Great. We've got a couple of questions here from Susan. So this might be in follow-up to your previous around collaboration. So a collaboration servicing established industries. Yes. Again, I'm still not 100% sure how I would frame that response. So whether you want to send that question here or you can contact us by civic@launchvic.org. And I'm sure we can chuck that in the chat as well. If there's any questions around that collaboration, happy to email as well. And then a follow-up question was also how technology should be based, how technology-based should these ideas be? Ours is a horticultural genetics science-based initiative. To me, that sounds pretty technological. Technology doesn't just mean an app, I would say, particularly in this challenge, and doesn't necessarily mean a robot in hardware. That sounds pretty technological. But Anne and Anthea, I don't know if you have any further points around what you would deem technology in this field.
As broad as possible. Ag uses genetics, incredible amount. We have a lot of research that goes into genetics. So yeah, absolutely. As you've mentioned, Mark, please put the application in, expression of interest in. That would be great.
Perfect. No, that's great.
Yeah. And I think the keyword there is innovation as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So again, I think in the definition of a startup in the guidelines, it'll talk about the framing of what that is. As I say, because we're working in such an early stage, we would welcome the idea that what you've got now might not quite meet that definition, but has the potential to meet that definition in the future. So, but yeah, by all accounts, that sounds like technology to me. Scott has asked, can you be involved in multiple submissions? Technically, yes. I would say my recommendation would be to put your best foot forward in a single application. It will be generally viewed better if we can see that you're working on a single idea and are kind of concentrating on that. But there is technically no reason you can't submit multiple applications. So I guess that's more just from a how you think you'll be most successful in that application process. But I would recommend a single application on your sort of sole idea is probably going to be viewed better. Excellent. All right, we've rattled through a few of those Q&A questions there. I know that we've just had a question around missing some of this info session and that can you get a recording of it? And yes, we've dutifully answered that in the chat. Yes, we will be having a recording available. So that will be sent out to everyone who registered. And yes, we'll also be featuring it on our Civic Labs website. So yeah, plenty of opportunities to check this out if you did miss anything at all. For some reason I got muted there. Maybe that's a way of the world telling me to maybe try and wrap this up. So I'm going to give an opportunity for any final questions that people may have. But otherwise, I think we've reached the end. As I say, this will all be available to check out online. And you can also email us with any questions that you might have as well. But if we don't have any more questions, I might extend my thank you to Anthea and Anne. Thank you so much. They've been let go from here and their responsibilities are done. Again, just remembering that expression of interest period is running until the 16th of April. Wednesday the 16th at 1 p.m. is the final due date for that. So please get those expressions of interest through. And we will look forward to receiving your expressions of interest and subsequent applications from there. Great. Okay. Excellent. Thanks very much, everyone. Looking forward to seeing all those applications come through, and good luck. We'll see you soon.